Welcome to the HP Online Teaching Assistant, an initiative of HP Education. Today, we'll explain how to create class grades with Google Spreadsheets. In today's educational session, I will explain how to create a gradebook using Google Spreadsheets. And today's objectives are to explore the Google Sheets app and look at some examples of how to calculate grades in Google Sheets. Let's start. What is Google Sheet? It's a web-based application to create, modify, and share spreadsheets. It serves to organize and analyze data. In the case of today's session, I'll focus on its usefulness for grading. Who can use it? You will find it in the Educational, Business, and Personal G Suite account. So any teacher or person who has a Google account can access this tool. Is it hard to use? In my opinion, no. However, when inputting formulas to speed up tasks, there are so many functions that it may overwhelm some people. But for that, you can always search on Google. So the truth is that it takes a bit of practice and depends on what you need it for. Later on, I'll do some practical exercises on how to use it for class notes. And finally, how do I access it? There are 3 ways. You can search for the app from your Google account, or search for it in the browser, or from this link you see here. I'm going to show you how to do it from the Google account. I have Chrome open here and I'm already in my educational account. From here, I can search for the app directly in the 9 dots. Here are all the apps from G Suite. Here it is. Or I could also go to the Google Drive app. In this folder I have here that is called Class Notes, I have some spreadsheets that I previously uploaded to my Google Drive. As you can see, some are Google Sheets, like this one that has this mark, a kind of plus sign, and others are Excel documents that I uploaded to my Drive. That is, you can upload an Excel document to Google Drive and turn it into a Google Sheet and start editing it from there. For example, if I click on this document, 6th grade students' math notes, I can click on Open with Google Sheets above and start editing it. Now I want to show you some of the operations that we might find useful in managing our class. Here I have some students and different activities with their respective percentage of the final grade, i.e. the assignments are equivalent to 20% of the final grade, and I have 3. The quizzes equivalent to 15% of the final grade, and I have 2. The same way with the classwork, portfolio, and final exam. So to find the final score, we are going to do 3 operations: average, multiplication, and addition. We have to find the average of these activities, then multiply each result by the corresponding percentage and add them all. To do this, I stop at this cell and enter equals average. Here I select the 3 cells of the row for student 1, corresponding to the activity assignments, and multiply by 20%, which is the weight of this activity, and then I hit F4 to lock the B2 cell. Then plus, and repeat the operation for the quiz. Average. Select the 2 notes in this activity, multiply by 15%, and hit F4. I continue, plus. Average. I select the grades of classwork, multiply by 20%, hit F4. Plus, portfolio grade multiplied by the 20%, hit F4. Plus, the grade of the final exam, multiplied by 25%, hit F4. And here we have the final grade. We can remove the decimals from here. And now we drag the formula down to give us the final grade of the rest of the students. The F4 key is important because if I hadn't included it, when dragging the formula, I would lose the percentages of each activity. So do not forget to block these cells. Another way to insert functions is by clicking Insert, Function, and it will appear in the list of all the functions you have to work with in Sheets. I don't know if you've noticed, but when I averaged activities that had more than 1 grade, I selected all the cells together and not one by one. It works the same way with other operations. Let's do an example of addition. Let's say I want to add all the notes in this column. I stop in this cell and type equals sum, and I get a suggestion to add from cell B4 to B24. I select, and that's it. Other useful functions are to find the highest grade and the lowest grade. I'll do this with the column of the final grade. I go to this cell and write equals min, which is the function to find the lowest value. and select the final grades of all my students, close parentheses, and done. So the lowest grade is 1. And to see what the highest grade is, I type equals max, select all the grades, close parentheses, and done. The highest grade is 10. There is another option that I find quite useful for the data display theme, which is the option of alternating colors. It helps a lot to distinguish one row from another. To do this, I select my table, go to Format, click on Alternating Colors, and, as you see, I put them in alternate colors. On the right side, I see the different colors I can choose for my table. Here are the predefined, and here if you want other colors. Now, I want to turn to the topic of filters, which suits us so well. For example, if I want to know how many boys or girls I have in my course. To do this, I select my table, and I have two options. I can go directly here to the filter button that I have in my option ribbon, or I go to Data, Create a Filter. And in row 2, which is where I have the titles of my columns, I see the filter icon. Then I could go to the gender column and deselect the F for female to just show me the boys, and click OK. When I have applied a filter to any column, you see that the icon becomes a solid color, and you no longer see the lines. That tells me that I have a filter here. Now I'm going to have it show me both boys and girls. If I had the names of my students, I could set a filter that organizes them alphabetically, sort A to Z. In short, there are different types of filters we can set depending on our need. Filter by color would be good if, for example, we have the cell with a red background for those with a failing grade. Or we could also filter by some condition. For example, if I wanted to know which students have a grade greater than 5 in the quizzes. Something else we can use is conditional formatting, which relates to the subject of alternating color. It allows us to set a color scale. To do this, I select all the cells where the grades of my students are. I go to Format, Conditional Formatting, and here I select Color Scale. Minimum value can be the number 1, which is the lowest grade. At midpoint, I can say the number is 5, and at max point, the number 10. If I want, I could also change the colors from those suggested here, or I could edit every one of the points of reference that I just defined. So, you can quickly locate by color which are the lowest and highest grades. In this column, I introduced a logic function of multiple conditions, ifs, to mark the word passed for those who had a grade equal to or greater than 6, and failed for those with a grade equal to or less than 5. So now I can add another rule to my conditional format, single color, and state that when the cell has a text, and here I type the word that in this case says passed, it's a green cell, and click Done. And add another rule that says when the cell contains a text that says failed, it's a red cell. This also serves to mark delays or absences in attendance. For this purpose, you formulate your sheet beforehand, and when you're in class, you put the appropriate mark or text, and the cell automatically filled with the color according to what you have predetermined. Well, now let's move on to the topic of Sparkline, which helps us to graphically view the evolution or behavior of the grades for each student. To do this, I go to this cell and write equals Sparkline, and here I select the classwork grades of student 1, close parentheses, and that's it. Then I can drag the function so that the rest of the students also have their progress chart in relation to classwork. And for the end of this session, I would like to touch on the topic of pivot tables. For example, if we want to analyze all this data in a separate site, I select all of my table, go to Data, Pivot Table, select Option New Sheet, and Create. Now let's say I wanted to see who passed and failed on their final grade. Then I can have the names of the children appear in rows, select Name, and in columns, I add Observations, and in values, I'll add the average of the final grade. And my table would look like this. Afterwards, I could generate charts or info from this to put together a performance report of my students. So that will be all for today. Thank you for watching this video offered by HP Online Teaching Assistant, an initiative of HP Education.